Okay, welcome today, guys. I'm excited today to talk to Dana Brown. She is the creator of the platform Wild Hearted World. She is travel advisor extraordinaire and coach. Her mission on her Instagram is to inspire people to travel and also show travel agents how to use social media. She's active on Facebook. She has 7,000 Instagram followers, and she's starting to dip her toe into TikTok as well. So a big welcome to Dana. Great to have you on our platform.
Thank you for having me, Matthew.
I'm interested today to talk to why we've got you on here today is because I think your experience in social media, what you're doing now, and how important that's going to be for the travel industry moving forward to connect with customers and do that a lot. Most people haven't been great at social media. So I'd like to explore that with you. And also, you're part of the Travel Managers banner. So being a mobile travel agent, I think that's probably a discussion topic a lot of people would like to explore today. But if you could start by maybe giving us a little bit of your story. How do you start in the industry? What's been the road up into this point for you?
Okay, so I started in travel a little over 11 years ago. I started with the Flight Centre brand where I was with them for 7 years. And then I made the big jump over into working for myself in partnership with Travel Managers about 4.5 years ago. And the reason that I wanted to do that was because I wanted to create more time for myself. I wanted to be able to choose my clients, and I've got a huge passion for photography and writing and social media. So yeah, having more time to dive into that. I started my travel blog, nearly 4 years ago, and have really, just like leveraged that platform to actually be able to cross promote and sell with my Travel Managers business as well.
That's excellent. And I know just from personal experience and talking to other people, there have been agents talking about, thinking about bricks and mortar agents, thinking about the mobile travel agent space. There's probably even agency owners looking at their cost base saying, we can't afford to pay this amount of cost base. We're interested in possibly in an agency moving to some sort of mobile travel agent space as well. And I know there's some common fears for people to make that transition, and you probably had them before you took the leap. Could you talk a little bit about what are the common fears that you see that from people making that transition from bricks and mortar to mobile travel agent, and what are the common misconceptions that you could probably dispel for those agents?
Yeah, well, I know for me personally, when I was making the decision, it took me 9 months before I made the move, because fears that I had were, will my clients follow me? Will I be able to make as much money as what I was making? Like, I was in a really good position where I was at the time. Would I be able to do it? Would I fail? Fear of failure is a huge one for people. And a year after making the jump, I literally looked back and laughed at myself for even having those fears to begin with. It just, sometimes you just have to, push yourself and dive in, and the rest just, catches up and follows. So I think at the moment, COVID has actually taken away a lot of those fears for people, because nearly everyone has kind of lost everything at the moment. So really, what do you have to lose is how I do it.
Yes, totally. I think that's a really good perspective on things for a lot of people. What do I have to lose? What options do I have? So can you take us through probably the first 12 months of that transition? I think there's a lot of people interested to hear, how does that work? And possibly adding to that, from that 12 months, who does it work for? Who's it not for? Who's it for? But how did your first 12 months go?
Yeah, so the first 12 months for me, the start, you obviously have a learning curve with learning new systems. I was used to, Galileo and Omnis, and then I had to, Galileo and Omnis, and then I had to learn Amadeus and Tramada. And Tramada, we have a great team to help us, because there's still some things that I'm not across, so they are amazing. So that was probably the biggest thing, learning those new systems. Also learning how many more suppliers there are that we can use. I think coming from the brand I was in, we were very sheltered in, you know, preferred partnerships. So when I came out into this whole new world of a million new suppliers that I could use that I had never heard of, even though I'd been in the industry for 7 years, that was really exciting to build connections with them. And it was also a time for me to scale back because I was definitely burnt out from where I'd come from, and I wanted to take some time to really, you know, set an intention as to what I wanted to be like as a business going forward, who I wanted my clients to be. And, you know, I cut a lot of that. I was, you know, quite brutal actually in who I choose to work with going forward.
Yeah, and that's probably even worth exploring as well. How did you find customers coming with you? How did that process go? And what made you define who you wanted to deal with?
For me, like everything is always about feeling really good. So I wanted clients that were like friends, that were like family, that I could have fun with. Fun is a really big value of mine. You know, people that wanted to be connected. I didn't want someone to come to me and be like, hey, you know, I want to book this. I don't want to feel like, you know, it's data entry that I'm doing for work. Like I really want to have fun and I want to be involved and I want to be part of creating that dream. So my clients are always fun. They're always out there. And that's what I love. And if people don't fit that, then we're usually not a good fit to work together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people that you're probably talking about, a lot of people's ideal situation they would love to be. You're preaching to the choir, I'd say, when you want to be able to select people you want to work with. How did you find it financially though? I mean, it all sounds really great, and being able to select your clients and build your dream business in terms of who you want to deal with and maintain those values of fun. How did you find the financial transition, and what lessons could you give to people that maybe from what you did well and maybe from your mistakes in that area?
Okay, so I definitely took a hit financially in that first 12 to even 24 months. Not only because I was starting my own business, but because I took that extra time for me, because I wanted to kind of, you know, chill a little bit. So I definitely could have gotten the ball rolling a lot quicker than what I did. So yeah, it's, I guess, depending on what your goals are. So for me, that was what I needed at that time. Yeah. And it got to a point where I was like, okay, you need to start making more money. You need to start getting more serious with this. You know, we need to, we need to start marketing. Yeah, so really have a look at what your goals are and take action on them. And also have some money behind you just as a, you know, protection base. I had a little bit there, but I also chilled for a lot longer than I was planning to, and I wish that I had a little bit more behind me just as a buffer.
Yeah, and I think that's great advice, like giving a realistic view of maybe it's 12 to 24 months of building that business up. I think so. Who is it not for? Who do you think it's being a mobile travel agent is not for? Like, what's it going to take?
I feel like it's easier to say who it is for, so you can kind of cut out who it's not for. So you need to be motivated. You need to be able to chase after your goals. You don't necessarily need to know what you want, because you kind of figure that out as you go. But yeah, motivated, driven would be my top points, because we have like a really supportive network around us. You know, time management is quite crucial as well. Like I actually play games with myself during the day. I have my to-do list and I'll say like, okay, this hour I'm doing this. And then I get to, you know, I'll take 10 minutes and go hang the washing out, or, you know, something like that, just to make the day a little bit more fun, so I don't end up on, you know, Netflix or something like that.
And how have you become a better travel agent in the last 4 years?
I have become so much more confident, especially on social media, because being, you know, I am my own brand. So like I'm constantly facing my clients and, you know, being on camera. So, you know, 4.5 years ago, before I started that, you never would have caught me on Instagram stories. It's it's insane to think about, you know, how much I have grown as a person, and how much more I connect with people, and yeah, I guess how much more, you know, committed I am to growing my brand, because it's my baby, it's my business.
Yeah, and look, firstly, I commend you for taking that leap and going through those 4 years. I'm always interested in talking to people that have had the experience and what have been the light bulb moments for you. I know you said, you know, understanding the importance of social media. What other kind of light bulb moments around being able to grow in a successful travel business in the way you want to grow it? What have been the real light bulb moments that you could share that would be of value to the people listening?
The biggest ones I would say would be valuing myself. The number of light bulbs I have had go off around that have just been countless. And that goes back to knowing who you want your client to be, and when people come to you that aren't that client, being okay with saying, look, we're not the right fit, you know, maybe you should go here. I used to, I think, come from a scarcity kind of way around that, with, you know, being scared to say no to people that, you know, like I need this money, like I want to make that money. But I learnt that every single time I said no to someone that wasn't right, someone even better just popped up out of nowhere and took their place. So yeah, be okay with saying no, and trusting that what you want will show up, and always out of nowhere. Like it blows me away how that happens.
And it's that long-term view, I think, and commitment to building something that you want to have, to be able to sacrifice the short-term wins along the way to ensure that it is some. And what's the result of that? I think, you know, because sometimes people think, you know, it's going to be, I don't want to push business away, but what's the positive result of building a business that you want to be in? Like, give us a brief kind of vision of if someone does it well and they build a business, what do they have to look forward to?
The biggest example that I can give you of that right now is going through COVID. I have not had one client question me. Every single person has trusted me when I've said, this is what's happening, this is what the options are, and been in communication with them. Every single one has said, I trust you, you do what you need to do.
Wow.
I'm seeing all of these other agents, and I even feel guilty about this, that are having such a hard time. And I haven't had that. I've had a hard time in undoing all of the work I've had to do, and not, you know, not earning any money, but my clients have been amazing. Yeah.
And let me go into a bit of the why. Can I ask you why is that? Why are you having that situation? It may seem obvious to some because of the relationships you've built, but why is that? Why are you being able, you find yourself in that position while other agents don't?
I think it's the connections that I've built with those clients over the years. Even some of those clients are brand new clients, that this was the first trip that I've booked with them, and I don't have that level of connection that I do have with some of my other clients, but I've communicated with them and set expectations the entire way through. And I've always try and positively frame my language when I'm speaking to them, especially in email, about giving them their options. And yeah.
Yes. And if I could maybe keep to the point, but a little bit of a sidetrack, there's been talk in the industry about improving our transparency, you know, improving our transparency when making the booking, when having to deal with suppliers and cancellation fees and service fees or planning fees or whatever you call it. Can you describe what you do around transparency?
Yeah, well, I don't charge fees on top of anything. I just charge what the prices are, and I make my commission out of, whatever the prices are. And that's something that I'm definitely looking at the moment. Like, do I charge fees going forward? Like the only fee I charge is an itinerary planning fee, but that comes off the total of what people book. I just feel like with the clients that I have, I'm always making enough money. So I'm kind of happy with where I'm at. And as long as I'm happy, then I just kind of continue doing what I'm doing. So
I
yeah,
re-
there's been a lot of conversation around fees, and it's something that I'm still grappling with as well.
yeah, and the itinerary planning fee, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I think financially that gives you an opportunity to bank money, whether they even whether they book it with you or not, and I'm sure they end up booking with you anyway. So the itinerary planning fee from a customer perspective is that that service has been provided, they have paid for that service, that part of the service is complete in terms of transaction. And so is that now through COVID, or maybe COVID or not in COVID, that's money that you bank?
That's money that I keep on file. So a couple of people, we were working on trips when COVID happened and those trips didn't go ahead. So
Yeah.
I messaged each of them and I said, okay, well, I have your deposit on file. I'm happy to refund it to you if you want, or we can just leave it there for whenever you're ready, to travel. And all of them have left it there because they will travel. So it's giving
Right.
them a choice as well.
Yes, yes. And looking for the long-term perspective of that and valuing the client as a lifetime client, the word of mouth that comes from that, your brand that's associated to that interaction. Okay, and in terms of the social media, and it's probably something that we really want to get into as well, is tell us what you've learned about social media. And you say you hadn't touched Instagram stories. Now you've got 7,000, almost 7,000 Instagram followers. And I know we talked before, and I've heard it on other interviews that you've been in, where you've been helping other agents develop their social media savvy in terms of building an audience. Take us through what you've learned so far in social media, and then I might after that get into some really nitty gritty about social media. But what are some of the key things you've learned about social media, and why is it so important?
Okay, so I've invested tens of thousands of dollars into learning social media so I can, market myself better. And the reason why it's so important to me is because it's just another layer of building connection with my clients. And a lot of agents will think that putting, a deal up on, Facebook or Instagram, it's just a way to get sales happening. For me, it's not like that at all. Social media for me is about building brand awareness, connecting with clients, and always being front of mind. A lot of people follow you and they never engage with you. And this happens with a lot of my clients. Someone will contact me and be like, hey, I love what you're doing on social media. Can you help us with this trip? And when they contact me, I'm surprised because not once have I ever seen them like anything that I've done, comment on anything I've done. A lot of people are just watching there, lurking in the background, just, seeing if you are who you say you are before they commit to working with you.
I think that's a great example of how you're building a relationship with people that you haven't even met, but through your social media, they're building a brand, them understanding who you are, what you do. They feel that more connected to you. They kind of know you, right? So they ring you like they've known you, and you've never even spoken to them before because you've been building that relationship up through social media. And I must admit, when I had a look at your social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, I didn't actually find a deal, like in its traditional way. I found you talking about a destination. I think recently you talked about a local destination. It's obviously focusing on the interstate travel. Hey, this is local destination. It's great if you're interested in visiting it. Contact me. And that was the extent of the deal. And it just makes sense. People want to know. People want to connect to travel. They want to connect to you before they even talk price. And I think as an industry, we're probably in the early '80s when flights started getting discounted so much that we got into a price mentality, and we almost trained the customer to do that.
Yeah.
And we're now having to shift from that. Especially in COVID, when inquiries down, cost base is still the same. You've got to get out of the price conversation. You've got to talk about travel in an inspirational way. And I think back to, often when I was an agent, people would come in and going on an amazing trip, and I would say, oh, they might say to me, when's your next trip? And I might not have had one coming up, and I said, that's fine. I'm going to live my travel life through you, through my customers, live through you vicariously. And I think flip the script, right? That's what customers are kind of doing with you. You're giving them an opportunity to live travel through you when they're not booking travel with you. I love how that, because your page resonates that. So what are some of the key points about social media? And let's possibly start with Instagram. And why Instagram? And it looks like there's a lot of focus for you on Instagram. Why is Instagram the platform where you have the most members and I'm assuming you spend the most time?
Instagram is a visual platform, so I'm able to post photo content, video content. Through stories, I'm able to engage with people through using poll stickers, question stickers. Like, I just find it to be a really interactive platform where you can get results quickly and also find out, what your followers or your clients want, so that you can pivot your marketing collateral to focus towards what it is that they're actually asking for as well.
And two things I want to bring up. When you say get results, and traditionally thinking, the agent might be thinking get a booking. Is that what you're talking about, or are there other results you're trying to get prior to the booking? Is there some other milestones along the way?
Yeah, there's different ones all the time. Like, I put a post up on Facebook yesterday, and I had used a few pictures that I'd found on Instagram from different states. And I put a question on there saying, we've got some incredible states, like, let me know which one you're from, because I want to know where people that are following me, which states they're from, so I can start using marketing material for those particular states while the borders are still shut. So, okay, most of my people are in New South Wales. Let's start putting out stuff around New South Wales to inspire people. So yeah, different things for different times. And the way that I know that is simply just by asking questions and listening to people, and then thinking, oh, that might be a good idea, and kind of just flowing from there.
Yeah. And tell us about how do you have a conversation with a customer through social media? Because traditionally we're so used to having a conversation with a customer when they're in front of our face, when they're on the phone to us. What does a conversation through social media look like? How do you ask questions? How do you build that, and is it polls, is it questions? What's the nitty gritty of it?
Generally, when a client comes to me, it will come via a DM, a private message. And if they are looking to book something, I very quickly move it off social media. We go straight to email or phone, because it's just quicker and easier. Social media is just there to be able to connect with them to start with, for them to be able to send me that DM, and then move it off.
Yeah, great. And what does 7,000 Instagram followers translate into bookable clients? Like, how many clients are you dealing with now? What's your client base? What's the size?
Yeah, I would have about 1,800 to 2,000 in, within my books, which is obviously a lot less than what I've got on social media. But yeah, like, some people will book a few trips a year. Some people will book one trip every, few years. I have a lot of those followers might never have booked with me. They might not have even traveled yet. They might be just getting inspired to travel. So some of those will eventually turn into clients. I tend not to even think about that. Like, my main priority is just connecting.
Yes. Yeah. Growing that audience
will come as it needs to.
Yeah. And I remember hearing you I saw you on another interview, and you said you were traveling full time.
Yes.
Now,
pre-COVID.
I think probably 99.99% of the travel agent population, in a way, just hated you, because they were so jealous that you get to travel full time, right? Like, it's the dream almost, right? So tell us about, because what I'm interested in is what I see and what I hear you do is that you use your travel. It's not just a trip, it's a more opportunity for content, for education. So two questions: how do you travel full time? How do you manage that? And what do you do to maximize your traveling to build your audience?
Yeah. So how I travel full time, the biggest question about that is usually financially. How do I travel full time? Um, I don't have a base anymore. I was in Bondi for 10 years. And when I moved over to Travel Managers, I decided, well, if people are working from home around their families, I'm still a single person. Like, my dream is, like, freedom is my biggest value. I just want to be traveling the world as long as I have Wi-Fi. Like, there's no reason why I can't be in Africa or South America or on an island in the Caribbean doing my work. So why am I paying this much rent? Why am I paying these bills? So I just cut all of my costs. I got rid of my apartment. I literally, like, sold or gave away everything that I owned. I was left with 6 bags. I brought them up to my parents and I took off. And that's it. And my expenses, I just try and keep the same as if I was running a household here. So what I was paying for rent each month is my monthly accommodation budget. Sometimes I go over that, sometimes I go under it. It depends on what country I'm in and what the cost of living is. But yeah, I try and keep around what I would be paying to exist if I was in Australia.
Yeah, and I funny enough, what I was thinking when you were talking about that, I was thinking about Wild-Hearted, and it's just that. I'm going to sidetrack here, but how did Wild-Hearted come about? Good segue.
When I was coming up with the name for the blog, I just got out a piece of paper and I just started writing down a bunch of words that I loved, and wild kept coming up, and just, I guess, like, open-hearted and free and the world. And I just made a combination of all of those words. And then the next step was also, I went onto a site called namecheck.com, which, if you are starting your own brand, I highly recommend going onto this site, because it checks if you can get the domain, and it also checks every single social media platform. So once I found Wild-Hearted World, I put it in there. I could see that I could get the .com, and then I went and got the social media handle for every single site. Even if I'm not using the sites, I own those handles. So if I choose to use them in the future, they're mine.
I think that's very clever. In fact, it's funny timing, because we just had someone on our page ask people about what do they think about a name of a travel agency they're thinking of launching. And I was thinking to myself, well, it's not just about the name. How are they going to want to use that name publicly? And I think namecheck.com, you said. Okay,
yeah,
great.
Without the E, it's namechck.com, something like that. But if you just Google Namecheck, it'll come up. But it's amazing, because I think I had 3 other names that I loved more than Wild-Hearted World. But when I plugged them in, I couldn't get all the social media handles. So I was quite upset at the time.
I know, it's gutting, isn't it? It's gutting.
Right now, looking back, I can't even remember what those names were that I love so much. Like, I just am Wild-Hearted World now. And a couple of friends have said that to me. They're like, you're not anyone else. Like, you are Wild-Hearted World.
Yeah, if people haven't been through the process, because we've done it a couple of times when we were building our business, it's like having a name for a child that you've had for forever, and then suddenly your best mate has a child and calls it that name. You're like, no, I can't use it anymore. So, and I kind of digressed there before, but the other part of the question I started talking about traveling was, what do you do when you're traveling? Like, how do you maximize that for the audience so they can?
So I always spend double or triple the amount of time in places. So if you were to go to, Budapest for a week, then I would spend 3 weeks there, because I need to remember that I am actually working. I am actually a human being just living, and I am a traveler wanting to see the place. So I've got 3 different things that I need to combine in there. I need to, have days where I have full work days. I need to have days where I might just want a day to watch Netflix. I might want a day just to, like, FaceTime with my friends and catch up with them, because I barely ever see them. And then I might have a day where I, want to get out and get the most out of the place that I'm in. So yeah, I generally really extend out the time for each place and travel a lot slower, so that I can experience it as a local, still do my job, and still just, like, live my life as if I were, back in Australia, but in another country.
Absolutely. And obviously that's moving forward, into recovery from COVID. educationals coming back on, that people don't have the length of time possibly to, if they're still bricks and mortar, or they're mobile travel agents, but they don't have that time. How can they maximize the 3 days, 2 days sometimes in a city? What would you recommend for them to be able to gather content, whether it's social media, blog, or something that they want to repurpose? How can they maximize that time? What notes are you taking? What photos are you taking? This is the kind of stuff you probably go through with the guys that you teach, but what's some of the detail behind that?
So you just want to spend your time researching before you actually go. And one of the best ways that I research is I will go onto the internet and I'll have a look at blogs that have been in that place, and recent blogs as well, to see, like what are all, the things right now that I want to see. And then also Instagram, I go through hashtags for all of those locations to see what photos could look like. You obviously don't want to go in and copy other people's photos, but it's good to get an idea of what is possible, angles and lighting and different times of day to maximize how your photos are going to turn out. And generally you kind of get into a bit of a wormhole, because as you start going into some hashtags, then you'll see a photo pop up of a place that you didn't even know was in that city, and then you just end up in all these other hashtags finding places that you never knew existed.
That's excellent. That's great. And then, so once you have that, and this is probably the really interesting part about it, and what's going through my mind now is it's such better content to deliver than a stock photo of someone else in that destination. And don't get me wrong, there's some amazing stock photos or free license platforms out there, but to have your travel agent in the photo of the destination it's so much better. So coming back from the travel, I suppose not coming back, going to your next country, how are you using that content, and how long can you use it for? How many ways can you use it, and how much content does it give you just traveling to a destination?
So once I've done my research, I will make my itinerary and squeeze in as much as I can into those days where I am out exploring and shooting and getting the content. You can never take enough photos. So if you start to think oh, I'm taking too many, no, you can never take enough photos. Just keep shooting, get everything you need, shoot it in different angles, shoot it in portrait, shoot it in landscape, because they're good for different platforms. Don't think about putting everything up then, filter it a little bit. You might put a couple of things up for a story. You might put one photo up while you're in that place. I still have the last 4 years where there's some photos that I've never even posted. I was actually scrolling through last night to find stuff that I hadn't posted and making a new catalog. So I've got a few months worth of content for now that I'm not traveling full time. So yeah, I've got thousands of photos that I haven't posted. So yeah, a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that they need to put everything up right now, and you don't. Just save it there. You've got it for later.
And I think you're talking about what you're doing now and using the photos and posts. So the content you already have. Can you talk to us a little bit about what is your strategy now? I know we talked a little bit about interstates opening up, and I think that's brilliant. What you just said about understanding where your customer lives, so you can then target or sell destinations that are relevant to them. I think is one example of a really important picture to really kind of paint for the listeners here, is that you really have to understand who is in your audience and how to deliver what you can deliver to them in a way that they want to consume it, right? So what else are you doing in possibly the intrastate space? I suppose for you, it's interstate. In terms of who you deal with, what are you doing in that space? What else are you doing right now? And possibly what would you be doing in the coming months?
So for me at the moment, it's been learning a lot about Australia. I've been taking a lot more webinars around Australia because I predominantly sell international, like a lot of people. I'm lucky that I do have a good understanding of Australia because I traveled a lot of it growing up. But yeah, just inspiring people, putting up photos of places that they've never seen before. And another thing is that you don't have to have created that content. Like you can go onto Instagram and download photos that someone else has created and credit their work. So you write what you need to write, and then I usually put a little camera and I'll credit whoever took that photo. That's something that is so important, because I see a lot of people effectively stealing other people's contents and not giving them credit. So that's really important if you are going to use someone else's work to credit it.
Yeah. So just to kind of talk over what you just said, is that you're still inspiring people while they can't travel. And are you inspiring them with certain destinations? Are you inspiring them just with what you feel is, how do you determine what's inspiring to your people? How do you select that?
So going back to asking questions again, don't be afraid to ask what it is that people want to see. So I said before, I was trialing out to see what states people are from, as to which states I want to put inspiring posts up from. But yeah, just asking questions and then working out what you need to do from there.
And is there any difference to approaching Facebook than there is to working on the Instagram platform? And what would those differences? Because I think traditionally a lot of agencies, especially, and even agents, are on Facebook. How would you treat that differently, if in any way, to Instagram?
I treat them fairly similar. I think the main difference is with Facebook, people will spend longer reading it, so you can go in a little bit more in depth, and you've also got those functionalities to add like a send message button, and it's like, I find it easier to like boost posts or do like a paid post from there. But a similar principle, I like to think of quality over quantity. So yeah, like I'll see a lot of people throwing things up there because they think they need to throw content out there. They need to have something up there. Whereas you're better off asking yourself, like, what is the intention behind me putting this post up? What are my goals? And then writing out your content from there as to what's going to benefit them.
I think that's a really great tip too. Can you give us an example, other than my goal to put content up is to attract people that live in the majority of my audience that live in that state? Is there any other example of you putting a goal that you want to achieve and then selecting content to achieve that goal? Is there another example of that?
Yeah, so another goal might just be to grow my page. Like I would like to have, another 100 followers on here. How am I going to do that? And it always comes back to connection, building that connection. So you want your content to be engaging enough that people are going to comment on there, they're going to like it, they're going to share it. And that's when new eyes get on your page, and you put a call to action on there saying, like this page. So you'll, write out your copy, and then you'll have your call to action at the end of what it is that you want. So follow this page, or whatever your goal is.
Yeah, and I think that's a really great tip too, because people at the moment will be wanting to try and grow their audience, and they're thinking, how can I do that? So you're doing it directly on your pages. Are you doing anything in the ad spend space, or it's all organic for you?
Organic for me, because I just find it so easy. Like as long as you're being authentic and engaging, it naturally just comes. If you're giving people value, it just comes. If you're throwing things up there with no intention or giving value to people, then you are going to stay stagnant.
Yes, yeah, and I heard a saying the other day that said people need to buy into you before they'll buy from you, right? So at the beginning of, and this is where I'm interested about what are people connecting to? When I think about a business, and there's probably three questions people ask when they're interacting with a business or a sole trader, is that, who are you? What do you do? And why should I give a shit? How, if we were to go back to this interview and to the beginning of it, and I was to ask you to introduce yourself and your business, but there was a whole bunch of customers that were watching, what would that sound like? What would it be any different? And what would the message be?
Good question. I think I would just say, you know, my name is Dana. This is what I do. I'm a travel advisor. And my mission is to inspire people to travel and connect through travel. So the same thing, it comes back to inspiration, it comes back to connection, and it comes back to being authentic and giving value.
Yeah, and I think then what you would do is then I would go onto your page and I would see that that's exactly what you're doing. I wouldn't see a whole stream of deals. I would see, here's you in Budapest, you know, and with the photos and talking to your customers and listening and doing all that sort of stuff. So now we're in, one of the things that we've been thinking of here at Immersive Leader is as we go along in these months, and we deal with agents and a lot of agency owners and managers. When JobKeeper stops, and let's say that's going to be in October. At the moment, it's October. A lot of agencies won't have a cost base that they can afford. They're just not going to be able to afford $10,000 a month rent, $5,000, $3,000, whatever that is. And some of them may want to look to, well, how do I take the cost base out of it and then move to a mobile travel agent model, kind of hybrid, right? And I'm interested to know, if I was a travel agency owner and I could only afford to pay myself a wage, but I wanted to try and give my staff an opportunity to still deal with the 3,000 people on our client base, but I would have to set them up as kind of mobile agents attached to my agency that wasn't bricks and mortar, but it was possibly from my house. Do you have any tips in doing that, and what kind of support an agency owner, or the process, and what kind of support an agency owner would have to give to make that happen? I know it could be a tough question, and maybe answer it where you know the answer, but any tips for that?
I work solo, but I know that within travel managers, there are some travel managers that have people working for them. So I believe that you can still set it up like that. So you'll have, you know, your main person. So, you know, like travel managers match you, and then you might have 3 or 4 people, you know, working under you. But I think that would be a better conversation to have with, you know, a BDM for any of the brands that are mobile, to be able to go, more in depth into that question. But I know it's possible.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate that, and I might even touch base with you on who's the best one to possibly talk to about that. I think, look, what you've given so far is a huge amount of value. Can you give us a bit of a story or example of where? Because I want to come to the coaching side of it now, you know, and exploring that, because as you say, you've spent tens of thousands of dollars in educating yourself. And it's not just the financial input, it's the time, the learning, you know, the learning by doing and making mistakes and then doing it better. And all of that is probably worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more.
Yeah.
So what's an example of that you can give us where you've worked with someone to help them grow their business? Can you kind of talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah. I love how you said then learning through doing, because that is the biggest way that you know what works and what doesn't work. Like, I'm constantly testing on my pages and throwing things out there to see what works and what doesn't, because what works this week might not work next week. Like, social media is such a fluid space. It's constantly changing. Algorithms are always moving. So it's just a matter of playing to see what does work. But what I was doing a little bit earlier this year in February, I put a call out within travel managers to get a group together to do a month challenge, because I really wanted to turn this into a course that would better all agents. So I had 170 people put their hand up to say, yes, I want in. And I chose 10 people, and it was a challenge around stories, about getting them comfortable on camera and how to ask questions and how to engage and how to, you know, create content and go from there, and just really, really challenge them. So we only got about 2 weeks into that process before we got the full brunt of COVID, but the feedback that I've had from everyone so far has been amazing, and it will be something that I do again in the future. But at the moment, I'm turning it into ebooks. So people can do it at their own pace in their own time. And my first ebook I'm going to launch the end of this month, which will be a free one, just on how to best set up your Instagram to convert, because you've got that one opportunity when people come onto their page, they look at your bio, they look at your highlights, they look at your photos. So it's just about how to, kind of set that up best to be able to convert them into a follower.
Yeah, I think that's excellent. Wow, 170 people. So it probably, that's a great example of one, people know what people know that you know what you're talking about, and two, there's an example of the need that people, and the eagerness to want to learn that stuff, and people realize, hey, this is in the post-COVID world, it's about using all the opportunities around you and to get in front of the customer, and social media. If you're not on social media, or if you're not doing it well, then someone else is doing it better than you, and making it work. And so you've got to learn from them, and the fact that you're putting it out there to help people, I think is great. So let's go back over that. Say if someone, because I think you would have interested a lot of people on this discussion as well, in terms of knowing more and possibly learning more from you and seeing what you're doing and how can they work with you and use your services. So you mentioned the ebook that's coming out at the end of this next month. Sorry,
this month.
Awesome, great. And that's all about how to the first impression on Instagram, right? How to grab someone.
Yeah, so it's just going to be step by step on how to set it up to be able to convert. There's a lot of people get so confused. There's so many courses out there. There's so many things that people are telling you to do. So I just want it to be like a really easy step-by-step walk through from, like the most basic thing. There's some people that don't even know how to make a story on Instagram, into something a little bit more in depth. So there'll be some things in there for people that are a more advanced level as well, but you can walk through at your own time.
And I know I've already said this, but for the people listening, this is a ebook by someone who is also a travel agent that is doing it, that has 7,000 Instagram followers. So this is someone that has gone through the trials, what works, what doesn't work, and it's not someone from another industry trying to impart their knowledge or transfer their knowledge to you. And while that's definitely still worthwhile, to have someone that is a travel agent, that has been through it, that has got the results, I think it makes you an ideal person to connect with for any agents out there that really want to know more about how to do it from someone who's done it.
Yeah.
What else is coming up? So let's say they grab the ebook, they consume that, and they go, okay, Dana, how else can I work with you? How else can I learn from you? What do you got planned?
So I already do one-on-one coaching, if that is something that people are interested in. In the future, I would like to turn it into a course, with separate modules that you can do, like more video-based training rather than the ebook. But yeah, that's going to be a growing process over, I guess, the rest of this year. Great.
And so are we able to possibly get a link or some sort of way that if someone is interested in the one-on-one coaching, that they can get in contact with you? I'll grab something like that off you, and we'll put it in the post as well, so they can grab that from you. And let's say they want to know more about you. I'm thinking Instagram, Wild Hearted World, and we can leave all those links in there as well.
Instagram is the best way to connect with me. I am on there a million hours a day. So just send me a DM. I'm really open to like my biggest thing is being able to help people to grow. So please don't be afraid to ask me questions. Like, just send me a DM, comment on one of my posts, whatever it is you need. Like, I'm always more than happy to help and to share my knowledge.
Well, that's great, Dana. Look, lastly, if I could ask you to nominate some people that you think would be able to give great value here on the platform to the people listening, who do you have any people in mind that could really add value to the audience?
I can think of a couple of people, and the first two would be amazing to have on camera together. They are also travel managers, John Lancashire and Brett Ray. Incredible, and they have another guy that works with them as well. And then also Sonia Jones from Sonia Jones Travel has built up an agency for herself and has employed a few people. So she would also be another incredible person to speak to.
Excellent. Look, Dana, it has been invaluable, not for me, but not just for me, but I'm sure for the people watching, whether they are already a mobile travel agent, aspiring to be a mobile travel agent, or even a travel agency owner. All of these things can be translated into any sort of travel business. And the fact that you'll be able to give us from experience those learnings. And I also commend you on being, you've got to a point now that you want to give that back to people. To help an industry, and it's people like you that we need now that are willing to share that, willing to help people get through this. And not everyone's going to survive, but because of people like you, more people will. So I really thank you for letting us have you on the show out of your time, and I wish you all the best. And I really hope people get in touch with you.
Thank you so much for having me. I was really excited to come on and be able to talk with you.